Welcome back, everybody, to Constructive Uncoupling, the podcast devoted to amicable divorces. I'm Judy Weigel, your host and amicable divorce expert. Why? Because that's all I do, amicable divorces. Today, we have what I call an exit interview. Someone who has been through a divorce and is willing to share her experiences to help anybody else who is now in the throes of divorce. We have a lady that I did not divorce. So this is interesting because on other episodes, I've brought in people that have been divorced by me because I know their stories and I know the value that their stories can provide to you. But Andrea Zito, welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
So Andrea Zito, I met when I was at the mall a few weeks ago. I just ran into her. We started talking as people do in line waiting to be charged. And when I told her what I did for a living, she started telling me her story. The story was so fascinating that I asked her to please, if she wouldn't mind, coming here to share her experiences because I think she has something very valuable to share with you in terms of what she went through and how she handled it. And Andrea, I am so fortunate to have met you. I mean that.
Aw, thank you. I feel the same way for you.
So let's set this up for the audience so that they know what your experience was. How long were you married?
I was married for 10 years.
And how long did the divorce process take?
The divorce process itself was at least a year for us fighting back and forth to get at least a settlement. And we didn't finalize, once we had our settlement in place, we didn't finalize things maybe for another 7 years. We thought we had finalized it, but it wasn't, so.
Why wasn't it? What happened?
We just didn't submit the final judgment.
Okay. Now, why is that? Because this is interesting. My little phrase is, divorce is an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes you just have to stop the ride, take a breath, and then come back at some point. So what was going on that made you wait that long?
I don't think either of us realized that it wasn't finalized, but also I was paying for his health insurance, and I just thought it's not that big of a deal. Like, we have everything settled. I'm away from him.
Right.
We have an agreement, so
That was okay. And then you came back together when it made sense for both of you to finalize?
When he wanted to remarry, that's when he realized that we had not finalized things, and then we went back and submitted the final judgment.
And that's interesting because that is what happens. An event takes place that has an end date or a starting date to it, and that event is the thing that influences the completion of the divorce filing. So I'm not surprised that you're saying that. But questions about the lead up to divorce. Who asked for the divorce?
I asked for the divorce.
Why? What was happening?
Oh, it was...
Here we go.
I know.
Here we go.
It was constant fighting. Everything was a struggle, and it was years of this, to the point where I would break out in rashes. I was having like a knot in my shoulder where I couldn't even, like moving my arm or moving my head or neck, and it was painful. I just was in pain, and I was literally found myself crying, and at one point I was screaming out to God, just kill me. God, just kill me. And I said, then something inside my head said, Andrea, you don't have to be so drastic. You can leave. And I was like, but how am I going to leave? And I didn't know how I could leave and be okay with the children. And that was my biggest fear.
Okay, how many children did you have?
I have 2
You
children.
have 2. And how old were they at that time?
At the time, they were 9 and 6.
Okay. Were you working or were you a professional mom?
So in the beginning, I was at home with the children and helping my ex-husband with his business. When I decided to leave, I ended up getting a full-time job.
Okay, good. Good. Now, did you get a job right before you left? Or did you just have to leave and then...
No, so it was leading up to it. So I got a full-time job. It was probably at least 2 years or so before I finally left.
So in the 2 years before you were planning on leaving, you were laying the foundation so that you could be independent and leave.
Correct.
Okay, so this is really important, and I know I want to break for a second. This really does affect a lot of women, a lot of people, because you have the traditional marriage, because you can. There is money coming in enough so that you can be a professional mom. And I use professional mom pointedly because those people who have never been a mom can't imagine what a job it is. Right. It's unbelievable. So, okay, so you got a job, you're setting yourself up to live independently, because when you live independently, when you have your own money, now you can actually make decisions freely, can you not?
Right. Yes, that's the big factor.
Yeah. Okay. And that really is a tough component of a lot of people's divorces, that they had the traditional marriage. Now they believe that they should transition out of the marriage, and they're stuck. Maybe what they were trained for, that industry doesn't exist anymore. The world is so fast-paced now that you can't even call somebody and have them answer the phone and talk about a job, right? Right. So I think it's very difficult to look for work now, especially if you're not right out of college. Okay, so you have 2 children. You have your job. Now you approach your husband and say that you would like a divorce. What was that like? Hardest discussion of all.
It was horrible because not only did I tell him that I wanted a divorce, I started sleeping in a separate room, and he would harass me every time that he could, by whether it was if I was in the shower, he would come and just say nasty things to me, or just...
Did he know why you were sleeping in a separate room?
Yeah, he knew.
Okay.
He knew. And he even wanted to try to get me pregnant so I would stay.
Okay.
But I made sure I
didn't
put birth control like that in so that there was no way that he could,
right.
So...
He didn't want you to leave. Or he suspected something was up. It's a dance people do, leading up to the divorce talk. I've done other episodes on this. People start going into self-protection mode. They set themselves up independently because this is a really hard process.
Yes.
We make our vows. We have all the right intentions to stay married. When we realize that marriage is no longer going to be healthy for us, we do automatically go into protective mode. And then the other person becomes suspicious and changes their behavior. So that's what I'm sensing was going on.
He actually didn't really change his behavior, but what he did was it just intensified. Because there was many times that when, I would, before going to work, this is before even saying I want a divorce, but there were many times where he would pick a fight with me before I leave. So I'm crying, locked in my closet, I'm crying because I don't want the kids and everybody to see, and then I have to put my makeup on and fix my face and put a smile on and go to work and act like everything's okay. And that was very frequent. and over the course of our relationship. So it just intensified after I said I'm leaving.
I see. The children. So once the divorce conversation happened, how did you tell the kids?
It was not a matter of telling the kids. So what happened is I actually ended up having an affair because I didn't know. I ran into someone that I went to high school with. And originally I was meeting this person with my family because I thought it's good that I know someone in California because I'm not from here. And my father was moved to Brazil, and my mom was living at my sister's, and basically I had no place to go they're in the East Coast, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I ran into this person that was a friend from high school, and I thought, wow, we have so many similarities. It would be great for our families to be friends. And we got together for Christmas, and as friends, and then my husband embarrassed me again in front of this person, and I said, you know what, that's it, I'm tired of being embarrassed. And then I ended up having an affair with this person, which I felt safe because I had known him since he was 16. And I know that's not...
Did you need that as a release?
I needed it as a support, to have someone here as a
just to lean
an interim till I could get on my feet. Okay. And I know that's not healthy, but that's what I personally needed to do at the time.
Well, I certainly make no judgments on anybody, by the way, because life is so complicated and intricate, and we just do things that we feel we need to do for protection, for security, for safety. It's just, we're complicated.
Right.
We're all complicated people, but I'm sure other people have been in the same situation. So I guess this is my point in sharing, just so people don't think they're alone.
Right.
Going through a similar situation. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So when you said it wasn't about telling the kids, did the kids kind of think this has to be it?
No. So my ex-husband, after I started sleeping in the other room, and he was, adamant, like, why, let's go to counseling, let's try to make things work. And I had already made up my mind, there's no way this is working, because it's like a broken record when you're fighting over the same thing every month. So I started, and then I was having an affair. So he ended up hacking my computer and seeing some messages that I had sent. And so when I came home from work that day, he started hitting me, and I ended up calling the police and my neighbor, because I didn't know what he was going to do. I just knew he was angry, and when the police came, they ended up putting him in jail and giving me a restraining order against him, which. It was like such a relief, because I didn't even know that I could be protected like that, and so that was beautiful. But so that my kids, they knew I wasn't happy. They knew we were fighting all the time. They could see these things, and so even though it was difficult for them, there was really nothing. I couldn't explain it. They saw it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, kids know.
Right.
Kids really, really do know. I remember when my sister got divorced, her children were 3, 5, and 7. I'm very close to them. I've always been close to them. That was many years ago. They're all in their 30s now. But the youngest, the one who was 3 at that time, once I started working in this field of divorce, I said to him, what was it like? Do you remember? You were 3. What was it like for you in the house? He said, I remember everything. And I was so happy when there were 2 households because it finally calmed down. So
Wow.
they know.
Wow.
They know. And, one of the most difficult things, I think, is when parents have to tell their children. Like, say there's no fighting.
Right.
It's all, it's calm, but there's just this other emotional life going on that needs to be changed because it's not working. I think those are really hard conversations to have with children. How did your children handle then that point forward, the change?
That was a bit challenging because of the fighting between us. It was, my ex-husband was saying negative things about me, not only to everyone I know and everybody that knows me in the world, but to the children. And he actually told the children that he never hit me and that I just lied to throw him in jail. And so at that young age, now the children had to decide who's telling the truth, or mom's a liar, or, and so then it created this thing of not really knowing who to trust. And that was very challenging because then they were very angry with me.
Were they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was your fault? Was that in their head?
Yes.
Okay.
And it led to, maybe the way that they would treat me, or, the way that our communication was, which now I'm very thankful that it's completely
different.
Yes. So it's a beautiful thing.
Did they have to go into therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
We did go through therapy, and I took them. They never went with him, but they were able to express their feelings through that.
Okay. So it got better. I'm assuming it got better, your relationship with the children?
Oh, my relationship with them now,
Yes.
At this day and age, it's the most, I'm so thankful, and I literally, even though they're 20 and 17 now, every morning, I want to just see their faces and tell them that I love them before I leave, just because they are such sweethearts, and they're the most amazing. And I know every parent thinks that probably about their child, but I'm thankful every moment that I have my boys. It's
This is excellent. Now, you did tell me that once the divorce was final, or while it was going on, you found that your ex-husband was a narcissist. He had that personality challenge.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I was just talking to a friend, and I was explaining what my life was like living with him, and all the things that I went through and experienced, and
The control issues?
yes, and at that point I didn't realize there was a term for this type of personality. Mm-hmm. And so once I heard the terminology, then I said, oh my goodness, it's not just me. There's other people that have to deal with this, because these are personality traits that are a common of a narcissist.
Yes.
So I didn't study different personality traits before. I had no idea.
But you just had somebody knowledgeable say, oh, this is what it is.
Correct.
After you explain the behavior. And the hallmark of narcissism is exemplified in control. A narcissist must always be in control, to the point where even if you have family plans, at the last minute they will change.
Correct.
They will quite often not be on time, because that's another form of control. And underneath it, now I'm not a therapist, but I have many therapist friends, and I've read the books on narcissism, and we had a narcissistic personality in my own family. I had to figure out how to deal with that person because I was in relationships, so I didn't want to lose that relationship if I could figure it out. And at the heart of it is there's a fear of losing control, right? Which is why you exercise over control.
Yes, and that's one of the things where I was still, and still to this day, even though I don't have a relationship with him, at all, I have compassion because I can see the fear. I can see why, from his life, from his childhood, why he ended up being the way he was, or why he tried to control me like he was, why he had that fear constantly of me leaving, which I guess sometimes when you have a fear and you try to hold on to, you manifest that fear. So, but I know I study a little bit more about the brain and how things work and how our beliefs and our patternings are established, so I can have more compassion at this point in time.
That's one of the best things you could have said and shared with people because, A, things are generational. Our behavior is established when we're younger. We have muscle memory of what our experiences were, and we start repeating the patterns of our parents or those who raised us unknowingly.
That's exactly what happened for both of us.
Thank you. Thank you. And then if you have a heart, and I think you do, once you realize, oh, okay, this is where it comes from, it doesn't mean you have to accept the behavior because it could be very hurtful, but you don't condemn it.
Right.
You don't become judgmental. You just now figure out, how do I deal with it? Because you still have, now we're going to the co-parenting, you still have a minor child.
Yes.
So can you talk about what the co-parenting has been like, or what was like through the divorce and post-divorce?
Sure. Originally, in our plan, we were supposed to have joint custody. And we created a way for him to have 50-50. We had two homes already when we were married, and they were literally within 5 miles from each other. One was a house, one was a townhouse. We rented out the townhouse. But when we got the divorce, I decided I'll take the townhouse, you have the house. And the plan that we created was never adhered to. Because he just never would take the children during his times. And that I saw also as a way of control. Because it was like I had to be at every time that he would say, oh, I'm not going to be able to pick the kids up today. And then I would have to change my plans. Or he would drop them off early and say, oh, I just dropped the kids off. They're outside. And whatever I was doing, I would have to just drop it and run home so that the kids wouldn't be home alone.
Right, because you're not inside.
Right. I wanted to try to have a life. And then I realized shortly after that it was much better to not make plans for anything in the time being until the children were older.
And could just fend for themselves in the house.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
So when you're co-parenting with a narcissist, which, by the way, is the episode in my podcast history that has received the most downloads. So this is seriously important to parents married to a narcissist. Not only is the co-parenting schedule typically changed, but then there's child support. Can you please address this aspect of co-parenting?
Yes. So when I moved to California with my ex-husband, we moved here with nothing but a truck and our cars, and we started a business together. So and after being with him or married for 10 years, I was entitled to spousal support. I was also entitled to half of the business and child support. But in order to prevent fight, because I knew the fight would be dragged on forever, I said, you know what? I'm going to waive my spousal support. I'm going to waive the business. Just here's a set amount. Let's, you give me this. Yes, you give me this amount every month, and we'll just call it a day. I'll walk away. And we had agreed on an amount, and the amount changed literally every month. It was some months he'd give me $300, and some months it was $500. And it was very challenging to survive like that, but I made it work. I started excelling at my work, and my income went through the roof, which, thank God, it was such a blessing. And but then he took me to court when we were finalizing the divorce, and he decided to tell the court that he only makes $1,000 a month, and now he wants to have the child support changed based on me making $10,000 a month and him making $1,000 a month. And I said, I knew his business was doing well, and in the books he had done over almost $400,000 that year for what and he has a very high profit margin. So I decided, if you're going to lie and about your income, I'm going to go back and through the court system to get the child support, the past due child support that you didn't pay all along the years.
Child support services, right?
Child support services.
Okay, so just to explain to people if they don't know, because some people don't, about child support services, it's a free service.
Yes.
So that's great, especially for people who don't have money. It's a free service. And within the service, I think they're pretty thorough. If you have to go to court, aren't you assigned attorneys from within the service and you don't pay for those attorneys? Is that a true statement?
It is a true statement, but I've never actually made it to the courtroom.
Oh, what happened?
So I couldn't even tell you, because they look at the papers and they say, here's what he paid, and then he was supposed to file a response. What did you pay? He never would answer any of the responses because he had no case to show that he paid me more. So rather than saying, having to go and say I didn't pay it, or rather than saying, well, she's right, he just decided he would ignore it. And so the judgment was made without us even having to go to court.
Okay.
Just from his sheer lack of not acknowledging
non-participation,
what he made or what he said.
So how did you get the arrearages?
What ended up happening is his townhouse, or the house that he owned, which I would say maybe after a year after the divorce or after the initial separation, he ended up moving to Orange County, and he rented out the house. And at some point, the tenants destroyed the house. They did some damage, and so he decided, rather than moving into it or rather than letting me buy it, he was going to sell it. And at that point in time, I knew that something was happening, because he, out of the blue, said, "Oh, you know what, Andrea? I would like to try to pay you off this past due support. So, can we negotiate a lower amount?" And I knew right then and there, he's selling the house. Because if he got me if he got my soft heart to say, let's renegotiate, he would have had it in writing, so he could tell the court, no, she told me I don't have to pay the whole amount. But I knew, and so anyways, the child support services, they put a lien on his house. They
did it,
and I didn't know. But they put a lien on him, and so that meant anything that was coming to him would instead go to me first.
Okay, so this is really fascinating. I didn't know child support services could do that, could put a lien on real property so that if it's sold, the lien holders get paid first.
Correct.
Before you get paid your equity if you're the homeowner, correct?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really, really good. Now, we're finalizing the divorce, and you're at the courthouse. This fascinated me, this part of the story, because this goes into how did you handle it? How do you handle this? Could you explain what happened?
Yes. So I have to just say my faith in God is the thing that has gotten me through to, there's many tough times and experiences that I've gone through and emotions where you just think, can I do this? I don't know if I can do this. Do I have the strength to do this? And during the divorce and the proceedings, I was made out to be a drug addict that took ecstasy every day and that I watched pornography. And he had people writing testimonies, and he literally called everybody in the world that knows me and told them this about me. Meanwhile, the drug, ecstasy, I tried it once in my life, but by no means was I a drug addict at all. I was actually on the PTA and volunteering for the soccer and coaching, and the pornography, I'm completely against it, but he was referring to watching Californication. So going into the court, I knew that there was all these slanderous things said about me. And, I was concerned because now the judge has to go and determine who's telling the truth. Who's telling the truth. And so we had a break during the session, and I went outside at the courthouse. And I saw a homeless man just sitting there. And I went up to him and I asked him, will you pray with me? I have this case and I'm nervous. And the man stood up and held my hands and he said the most powerful prayer that I've ever felt. And after that prayer, I felt it's going to be okay. Because the truth will always come out. You shine the light on the darkness, and the truth will always come out. As long as you just are truthful. That's it. And it's been the thing that's held me through all the time. It's just my faith.
See, it's so amazing. First of all, when you went outside of the courthouse, and there's tons of people walking around. It was downtown, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, there are tons of people walking around that block where the courthouse is. And depending on what day it is, there are a lot of homeless people, right?
Yes.
Were you drawn to that one certain person? Were you just wandering and this is guided? How did that, did you go out even thinking, knowing what you were going to do when you walked outside?
No, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I know my whole life I just follow signs and follow intuition, learning to develop your intuition of if something is saying, do this, then you should follow it. And for me, the reason I went outside to begin with is because I always felt, get some fresh air, spend some time in nature, just reconnect, breathe in the air, and then just get that energy. Because oftentimes when you're in a courtroom and there's full of all these anxious people, then there's a lot of anxious energy in the room. So let's go refocus, reshift our energy. And this man, I'd seen him there a few times before because I had to go into the courthouse several times. And so because I'd seen him and his familiarity, I thought, Let me ask him. Let me just ask him.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. And you walked back into the courtroom, and what happened?
And I won. So I was pleasantly happy with the outcome.
Excellent. So looking back, Andrea, on all of this, is there anything you would have done differently that you can share with people, or just in the process of getting divorced? Or do you feel you did the best you could, and do you not look back?
I do feel I did the best I could for each moment in time. Now, I continually grow, and one of the things that I realize now is, going back to my faith, when you hear these terms, with faith and love, everything is possible. And what that means is there's so many times when you're going to have fear. But if you allow the fear to control your decisions, or allow the fear to step in, it's not helping at all. So the one thing that does help is when you can refocus and have faith. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what is going to, to make it so that I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to make it through this, no matter what.
I love that. That's a big takeaway. Do have faith that the universe, the higher power, God, however we look at our connection to fate and evolution, just to know that there's a point and a purpose for our existence.
I did have to work hard. I had sometimes 3 jobs, but I did it.
It doesn't go without the work. We have to do our work.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the word truth and the concept of telling the truth. Because in divorce, we are so protective and so scared. I get people innocently, they don't even mean to be doing anything untoward when they say to me, well, should I really be truthful about what I make? Should I really be? Yes, you should be truthful about everything, because this is you. I don't know that not being truthful has any merit to it. And when you were doing what you needed to do, saying what you had to say, living by your truth, how did you feel? How did you feel in light of your fear? Did the truth calm you down?
Depends on the day.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that you will have. Anyone going through divorce, there's days that are good days, and days where you just wonder if it's ever going to end. And it's having something that gets you through the bad days. Whether it's going for the walk, or spending time in nature, or, things, instead of just complaining about all the things that are wrong, because the more that you complain about it, the more you actually bring it onto you. So it's refocusing your energy and direction to a point where you can have more positivity and getting through those bad days.
Couldn't have been better said. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Now, I'm going to conclude, but is there anything that in preparation for today you wanted to make sure you said, other than what you've said right now? Is there any last thing?
No, I think just the bottom line is if you're not happy and you are with a narcissist, or in a relationship that's not good for you, like, you can make a difference. You can leave and you can be happy. The choice to be happy is your choice, and you can create that life. And I'm really happy now.
Yes, you seem extremely happy, and you did when I ran into you at the mall.
Yeah.
Andrea, thank you so much for coming here. I really appreciate this, and thank you for sharing your story. It's not easy to take a look back, but I'm really happy that I know you because I appreciate how you handled yourself through this most difficult time.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for listening always. I hope these are helpful episodes, stories, and information to get through an amicable divorce or any kind of divorce for that matter. Thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Judy Weigel. I'm your host for Constructive Uncoupling. If you would like to email me, please do so at Judy, Judy, at constructiveuncoupling.com. Judy at constructiveuncoupling.com. And I look forward to our next time together.